You wake before the sun, not because you're disciplined, because if you don't, the day will punish you. And here's the first shock. The biggest danger isn't hunger or disease or war. It's something simpler. You don't get to choose who you are. Before you speak your first word, your life is already priced, measured, and limited by law, by custom, and by the land. So if you're truly here, early medieval England, there's one thing you need immediately. What are you allowed to be? And what happens if you forget your place? Because in this world, forgetting your place doesn't just ruin you, it can kill you. The air inside your house is cold and damp. Smoke from last night's fire hangs low, stinging your eyes. The floor is packed earth, hardened by years of bare feet and spilled grain. Somewhere in the dark, an animal shifts. Chickens rustle, maybe a pig. Their warmth matters more than comfort. This is your home, one room. It holds your family, it holds your animals, it holds your tools, it holds your entire life. No privacy, no silence, no sense the world outside is kind or waiting for you. You eat before you work, not because you're hungry, because if you don't, you won't last until noon. And while you chew, you already know something deep down. Today will take more from your body than you can afford. But the real trap isn't the work, it's the system you were born into. Early medieval England is layered, rigid, unforgiving. At the top, landowners, nobles, and the church. Below them, the ordinary people, the peasant majority. But here's what matters. Peasants are not all the same. Some are free peasants, often called churls in Anglo-Saxon society. Still poor, still taxed, still vulnerable, but with more legal standing than the unfree. And some are unfree workers, people whose obligations are locked to an estate. Later centuries will call many of them serfs, but the reality is the same. Your life is tied to land and lordship. And at the bottom, lower than anyone wants to admit, there is slavery. Enslaved people, often called thralls, can be treated as property. Now ask yourself one question. If you are poor and unfree, and your survival depends on land you don't own, where do you go if you can't cope? Nowhere. That's how the system survives. And once you understand that, the next question becomes unavoidable. What does this life demand from your body every single day? Your work begins at first light, before the sun feels warm. The year isn't January to December. It's ploughing, sowing, weeding, harvesting, threshing, hauling, repairing. Tools are simple, heavy, unforgiving. Wood, iron tips, blades that dull quickly, and the weather doesn't negotiate. Rain soaks you through, cold cracks your hands. Heat drains your strength until your thoughts slow down. Winter isn't rest, it's different labor. Fence repair, firewood, tending animals, carrying water, patching walls, keeping the roof from failing. Your body never fully resets. A bad twist becomes a limp for life. A cut becomes an infection. A tooth problem becomes a fever. And here's the part modern people miss. This isn't heroic labor, it's survival labor. Work that starts in childhood and doesn't stop until your body can't do it anymore. And all that work has one purpose, not comfort, not wealth. Just enough food to keep your heart beating. Most days you eat bread, dense, coarse, dark. Barley or rye, whatever is available, whatever is cheapest. Sometimes porridge, sometimes beans, peas, onions, maybe cabbage if the garden survives. Meat is rare, not always because animals don't exist, but because access is controlled. Rights over forests and hunting are restricted. Power decides what's yours, even when you're starving. So hunger becomes normal, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. The kind that makes you tired before you even begin. And when harvests fail, hunger stops being background noise and becomes a killer. One bad year can break a household. Two can empty a village. But even if you manage to eat, you still have to drink. And that is a gamble you take every day. You drink water drawn from a stream or a shallow well. You don't know why it's dangerous. You only know the pattern. Someone drinks. Someone gets sick. Sometimes a child is gone in days. Water sources are used for everything: washing, animals, waste. Contamination isn't a concept, it's just life. Dysentery, fevers, gut illnesses, outbreaks that move through one-room homes fast. And then you return at night to safety and find more danger waiting. Your house is timber and mud plaster, wattle and daub, topped with thatch. Fire is always near and always risky. There's no chimney, smoke escapes where it can. Your lungs pay for warmth. In winter, animals sleep inside for heat. So do fleas, lice, rats. Overcrowding turns every illness into a chain reaction. So you start wondering the question everyone eventually wonders. How long can anyone live like this? You may hear a number like 30 years and think, that's it? But that number hides the truth. Childhood is the filter. If you survive early childhood, your chances improve. Some people reach their 40s, 50s, sometimes older, but death is never far. A fall, a fever, a winter, a wound that turns bad. And sometimes death comes from something nobody understands at all. Because in this world, poison isn't a murder plot, it's an accident baked into everyday life. In wet years, a fungus can infect rye. Dark growth replaces healthy grain. It can be milled into flour. Bread looks normal. Then the sickness begins. Seizures, spasms, hallucinations, burning pain. Sometimes even blackened limbs in extreme cases. People call it divine punishment. They don't know it's poisoning. And poison doesn't only touch the poor. Lead has been used since antiquity in pipes, glazes, and vessels. Exposure can be chronic and subtle, with long-term harm that people wouldn't connect to a cause. So you live surrounded by threats you can't see, can't test, can't explain. And if sickness doesn't take you, law can. Because justice here isn't about proof, it's about fear. Religion explains suffering. It gives meaning to hunger, illness, death. That comforts people, but it also controls them. Because if suffering is God's will, questioning the world becomes dangerous. And justice is public. Punishments are meant to be seen. Humiliation, injury, warning. But the most terrifying part isn't the punishment, it's the method of truth. Trial by ordeal exists in early medieval legal practice. Hot water, hot iron. Then the wound is inspected days later to decide guilt. Imagine what that does to a village. People don't obey because they trust the law. They obey because they fear what the law can do to a body. And then there's the threat that doesn't even need a courtroom. War. War isn't a rare disaster, it's expected. When your lord calls, you go, not as a trained soldier, but as a farmer handed a spear. Even if you survive, your fields don't. And sometimes war comes from the sea. Raiders, sudden violence, fire, theft. A village can lose animals, stored grain, tools, its future. Sometimes the raid doesn't need to kill you to ruin you. It only needs to come once. And if you are born a woman, survival narrows further, fast. Your place is decided early. Your work is constant and often invisible. Cooking, cleaning, spinning, childcare, animals, plus fields when needed. Marriage is less romance, more arrangement. Labor, alliances, survival. But the greatest danger isn't social, it's biological. Childbirth here is a gamble. No antiseptics, no modern understanding of infection. Only experience, midwives, and prayer. Some survive many births. Some die the first time. And none of it is heroic. It's endurance, until it ends. And yet, this world doesn't collapse. People bend. They lower expectations until survival itself feels like success. a harvest that doesn't fail, a winter that doesn't kill, a child who wakes up healthy. That's hope here, small enough to carry. So, when you imagine early medieval England, don't picture castles and kings. Picture ordinary people waking before the sun, working with already worn bodies, living in a world with no safety net, and choosing every day not to vanish. Could you have survived this world? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to keep walking through worlds like this, lost lives, forgotten societies, history as it was actually lived, subscribe to Worlds Before Us, because the next place we rebuild may be even harsher.